In this episode, I'm going to share the secret on how to stop worrying. I'm your host, Lisa Beals, if not your college life, and I am the Midwestern mom / college administrator. I've done the university experience myself. I've put a couple kids through university, helped another recognize it's not their path, and realized that universities don't make it easy on parents or students to figure out how to navigate admission, application to graduation and degree. They just don't make it easy. We don't make it easy. There's not a class that we take to make it hard for you, but that's where I'm coming in. I'm here to bridge that gap, to reach out a hand and help walk you to the empty nester syndrome that you so richly deserve in the end. Okay, so let's get into this week's episode. The secret on how to stop worrying. So, worrying is, according to psychologytools.com, you decide if you want to use that. It's just a definition. It's one of many, right? So, worrying is a form of thinking about the future, defined as thinking about future events that leaves you feeling anxious and apprehensive. Distress because you're thinking about impending or anticipated threat, danger, an event, something that you can't control. That's worry, right? That's worry. How many of us are worriers? Ooh, yes. Some of us more than others. I joke. I'll joke sometimes and say, I don't have to worry because my husband and daughters worry enough for me. They worry. My younger is a bit more like me as far as, now I should say caveat. My younger daughter is a little bit more like me in that the things I think she should worry about, she doesn't. She's like, it'll work out, Mom. She's like a cat, she'll land on her feet. And then the most ridiculous things she will obsess about. So, again, she's only, how old is she? 24. So maybe that'll get better. But my husband and my older daughter, they are the worriers. And I have just learned over the years, it doesn't do me any good to say, it'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Someone that's truly worried does not want to hear that. I have learned when they're in worry mode, I just need to let them play it out. And for me, what I've observed, the easiest way to shut it down for them is to say, okay, what if that happens? All right. So they come up with a response, or we come up with a response. It's not the end of the world, is it? Now, is it that simple? No. It's many times pretty complex and a week's worth of off and on conversations. But this episode is about you and how the secret to help you stop worrying. So I'm going to tell you a story where I have really struggled with worrying. As many of you know, our youngest son passed away when he was almost 13. It was in the summer of 2013. I don't care who you are. My opinion, I don't care who you are. You are never ready to lose someone. Now, my Drew, we knew at 6 months old, we got the diagnosis that he had a very rare birth defect in his brain, and we were going to be lucky, they told us, to see we would be fortunate if he saw his between second birthday to maybe 4, might be 4 years old. I unaffectionately refer to that pediatrician as the Grim Reaper to this day. Couldn't tell you her name if my life depended on it. She is forever known by me as the Grim Reaper. That's their job, right? Give you worst case scenario. So, from 6 months, we raised this precious little life with the monkey on our shoulder, monkey on our back, that this kiddo has the potential to be taken from us at any point. it kind of reminds me of what we're going through today with COVID, right? You just don't know what tomorrow brings. And that is physically and emotionally exhausting. Okay, so long story short, I'm dragging this out, I know, I'm sorry. Long story short, we were so blessed, and one day I'll tell you the story about my Drew and how I survived those 13 years without losing it. But he passed away the summer of 2013. Okay, so the summer of 2013 was after my oldest daughter's freshman year of college. And I think my Maddie would have been, I'm thinking she was a junior in high school. Okay, so my Drew passes away. And it was rough, as you might imagine. But I had my girls home for the summer. And then my oldest is headed back to college. So she's not out of state, thankfully. Not across the country, thankfully. She was just about an hour south of us at IUPUI. But she was in an apartment now, off campus, in an urban setting. Shootings, you see it on the news all the time, right? Shootings, rapes, kidnappings, whatever. Stuff happens. So, I've lost one child 3 months prior. Now I'm sending one off to university. And every time I see something on the news, I'm worried. I can't go to sleep at night until she's texted me to let me know that she's in her apartment safe and the doors are locked. I'm doing the same thing with my youngest. Are you home? Where are you? I felt like I needed to know where they were every moment. And I was smothering them and didn't even know it. This was just my obsession. I just buried a child. I need to know. I need to hang on to the other two because I'm the only one that can keep them safe. Whatever. How ridiculous that sounds, but that's what your mind plays tricks on you. So my girls started to push back after a little while, and I thought I was, gaining some semblance of normalcy. And then that next spring in April, a very dear friend who was the girls' doctor growing up, his daughter was actually found murdered down in Bloomington, Sweet Hannah. And Hannah and my oldest were very close in age. I think they were only a year or two apart. And I got to see this play out where he's messaging us. Dad is messaging friends and family on Facebook to say, I haven't heard from her. Has anybody heard from her? And it started out, a little joke, check her cell phone, blah, blah, blah. And within a matter of 10 hours, the reality of what had happened sunk in. She had walked home. Friend put her in a cab. She got in the cab. Between the cab dropping her off at the curb and walking up to her apartment door, the door was open, if I remember correctly. The door was open. Her bag, I think her bag was dropped on the floor and she was gone. Now, her story has a not so happy ending because she was later found. A woman was driving and saw something in the woods when she was driving, found her. Thankfully, not thankfully, I don't know what you call it, but this family knew. They did not go weeks or months or years wondering what happened to their daughter. They got the grim news pretty quickly. Okay, so all that to say, here's a family close to me that's now suffered a parent's worst nightmare. And now that brings my loss of my son back. And now I'm grabbing my daughters back in to worry. You guys, that's what we do, right? Worry is thoughts about the future that you can't control. We're going worst case scenario when we worry. My friend Brooke Castillo calls that a thought loop, a thought error. In psychology, I think it was Psychology Today, I'll link to it. If you go to my Pinterest board for this episode, you'll see it. But there's a really good article that talks about this. It's a thinking error. So they define in psychology that thinking error is a thought, a worry that's not really grounded in fact. There is no evidence to support me thinking that if I don't have my daughters next to me 24/7, that something terrible is going to happen to them. That is a thought error. There's no fact to support that. Random acts of violence happen every day, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen to my girls. Your thinking error doesn't have to be that profound, that devastating. It could be, you could have a thought error that your child's going to fail a class, that your child's not going to make any friends, that your child's not going to graduate or not get a job. Those are all thought errors that in most cases are not grounded in facts. So psychologists call this futurizing, and it's one of the most negative and destructive things we can do. I think that's innate in the human brain. If you think about it, centuries ago, it served us well, right? To worry about the future, because that motivated us to seek shelter, to seek food and sustenance. If you were not worried and paying attention, the lion was going to come and eat you when you slept because you didn't wake up, because you heard something. Today, many of us can lay our heads down on a pillow at night and not worry about an animal coming and eating us while we're asleep. Now, that's not to say that every person that's hearing this can lay their heads down on their pillow at night and not have to worry about something bad happening. This is the human experience. There's good and there's bad. This is just the world we live in. And without the good, no. And without the bad, there's no way for you to recognize and appreciate what good is. You have to have that dichotomy. So this article goes on to suggest that when you are in a thought loop and futurizing those negative situations, then in your brain, your reality is worse than it really is. You have made in your head the reality that you're living in worse because of your negative thoughts, because of your worrying. And now what happens? Well, now you're actually creating more problems. And this could be you, this could be your student, whoever's doing the worrying. You're now creating more problems because it makes you anxious. It inhibits your ability to help yourself and take action. It goes back to the old, your thoughts are responsible for how you feel, which then drive your action or inaction, which then gives you results. So your results are directly correlating to the thoughts you have in your brain. So if you're filling your brain with nothing but worry and anxiety, it's no wonder that you're not getting the results, that you're not feeling better, that you're not making your situation better, that you're not helping your student find a solution, and instead you're just commiserating with them. I'm going to challenge you to try and break that worry cycle and remind you that the person that you think is not going to graduate or get a passing grade in that course, that's not the sum of your student. And for yourself, if you're not achieving something that you have an expectation that you should be achieving, that's not the sum of who you are. That's not your identity. Who you are today, who your student is today, is not who they're going to be next week, next year, in 5 years. If we're healthy human beings, we are going to change and evolve in our personal development every day. Every day. Every day you get a new chance to do better. So how do you know if it's a thought loop or actionable? How do you know if that worry is just noise worry, thought loop worry, or if it's worry that you can actually take steps to improve the situation? Noise or action? So worry can be a good thing, right? As we talked about before, the lion. So worry can be good. If you, I'm in north central Indiana. If I hear a weather alert that there is a tornado sighting, it's good for me to hear that and worry, because now I can take action to seek shelter, to maybe take my lawn furniture and put it up so it's not blowing across the yard or in the windows. I can take steps to protect myself and my family. That's worry that is founded in fact and that is actionable to a point, right? You seek your shelter and then you just have to hold on and pray. When we have worries that are not valid, that should not be taking up your brain space, is when they don't present a valid concern. When they don't have any action steps to mitigate the worry. So those worries are just noise. They're irrelevant, they're distress provoking, they don't deserve your attention. They can't be solved because there is no solution. So when you're trying to decide between noise worry and action worry, you have to ask yourself, what action can I do as the result of this worry? And if there's nothing that you can do, if you can't lock a door, if you can't put out a fire, if you can't seek shelter, then it's probably noise worry. It's probably noise worry. Now, what do you do about it if it's noise worry? If it's just noise worry, what do you do? How do you process it? Now, I don't know about you, but I've always heard of people talking about processing their grief, processing their feelings. What does that mean? How do you process them? Do you push a button? Is it writing them down? Is it meditation? What is processing? And I was listening to an episode of the Life Coach School, and it clicked for me. Anyway, it clicked. Where someone, Brooke had another coach walk her through processing her feelings. And you guys, it was really simple. At least for me, it was just like, oh, well, that's so elementary. It had to be harder than that. And it wasn't. So it's basically processing your feelings, processing your worry is just stepping back and acknowledging the thought and then verbally talking or writing. What are you thinking about? Why are you thinking about it? How does that make you feel? What are your thoughts about that? And just keep digging and digging and writing and let those feelings just come out. Stop holding them in. The tighter you hold on to things, just like your kids, the tighter you hold on to them, the harder they're going to push to get away. Let those feelings flow. Talk about how you're feeling. Verbalize them or write them out. Resistance to feeling the feelings just makes that harder to process. So let them go. Talk about them, verbalize them, write them out, and you'll feel, tell me if you don't, but this has always worked for myself. It's worked for my daughters. This is what they talk about on the Life Coach School. And, even if it's placebo, I don't care. I feel better because I've processed those. I've done it, air quotes. I've processed those feelings of anxiety, of worry. I've talked them out. I've written them down. And they no longer now have that stronghold on me. Because now, here's what's funny, is when I'm writing through those emotions, those thoughts, when I choose to write them down, then when I'm done writing, when I've got nothing else that my hand is writing, I'll go back and I'll look at those sentences. And what I do is I actually strike through things that aren't fact, that it's just a thought that has anything that cannot be proven in court. I'll just mark through it. And you guys, how powerful that is for me to then see what's left is factual, and that's very little. But what's left then is actionable worry that I can take steps to now make better for me. Attempting to stop worrying will just bring you more worry and anxiety. There it is. So I guess in the end, how do you stop worrying? You don't. You just learn how to handle it. You learn how to identify. Is it real worry and anxiety that's based in fact, that is actionable? Or is it a thought loop that's just worry and anxiety that you're feeding relentlessly with crazy thoughts that are not founded in any reality, that you're indulging in because you don't want to take the time to sit down and process them? Okay, you guys, there you go. How to not worry. You don't. You just learn how to process it. If you are interested, I'm going to unlock my Pinterest board on this episode, and there's some really great contacts. There's linked to the articles that I used to help pull together this episode. There is, the Life Coach School also has a free training on how to stop worrying. That's amazing. I should probably get a referral code for the Life Coach School as many times as I refer to their work in this podcast. But I love the work they do. At some point, perhaps maybe I need to sign up for their trainings. I don't know. But I'm going to link to the Life Coach School's How to Stop Worrying. They have a free training online that I believe Brooke Castillo herself leads. If this episode was helpful, if you have a sister friend, a mama friend that you know is a worrier, do me a favor and share this episode with them. Would you please? I appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel, whatever podcast application you're listening to me on, subscribe. Or better yet, go to my website, lisabeals.com, and sign up to subscribe to my email. Every week, I will email you the link to the new episode and any other resources that I think would help you, or just a word of encouragement or something funny that's happening in my life. I'm not going to send you a ton of email, okay? I'm just going to write to you. You're going to be my pen pal, my email pen pal. Who doesn't need another friend? Who doesn't need someone offering them some encouragement and upliftment? That's what you get when you subscribe to my email. I appreciate that. If you would be so kind as to go to your podcast app and give this girl a review. I really appreciate it. 5 stars would be great, but I'm happy to get your feedback. If you give me less than 5, you have to. These are my rules. If you give me less than 5 stars, you need to include some feedback for me. What am I missing? What can I do to improve? Okay? All right, you guys, have a wonderful week, and I'll be in touch again next week. Take care.